Hello, dear friends of internet world. How are you doing? Welcome back to Raving with Rua here on my YouTube channel, Songs from the Rua Room, a YouTube channel dedicated to singer-songwriters from Belgium and beyond. And it's lovely to have you all back here. It's great to see you all. It is Tuesday, the 24th of March in the year 2020. Hard to tell what day or month it is these days at the moment. But anyway, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you all. It's lovely to have you here. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider hitting that subscribe button there. It helps me build the channel and get the music out there to the world. If you're watching on Facebook, you can also follow us along there on the Rua Room. And please share this with your friends. Maybe start a watch party, all that good stuff. Helps us to do what we do. Yeah, and of course, as always, that virtual tip jar is open down there in the information section. If you'd like to throw a few shekels in there, you know, every little helps. As the man said, peeing in the ocean. So that's it. As always tonight, the stream kindly sponsored by my friends over there at G Sharp Guitars, the world's finest travel electric guitars. If you're buying one, tell them I sent you. You got a little discount. So it's great to have you all here. Back in the 80s, when I was growing up in Ireland, I was a big fan of a band called Moving Hearts, as a lot of you were, and but long before I knew who Jim Page was, I was listening to his songs, courtesy of people like Moving Hearts, and I'm absolutely delighted to have him here. We'll go over to Seattle. I believe that's where he is in the world. Please welcome the wonderful Jim Page. Hey, sorry.
Hey, there we are.
We did it. We made it.
We did, yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You?
You're doing. I'm very fine.
You're in Belgium, man. I love Belgium.
I know. You've been out in Belgium, have you?
Yeah, It's been a long time. You know, it's been a long time. It's a beautiful little place. It's a small place, but it's got so much heart and so much cosmopolitan. Everything is there. It's just, yeah. And I have to add, the greatest beer in the world.
Indeed.
As far as I know. Anyway.
Goes without saying. You're yes. I'll second that. I can vouch for that. And look at you're in Seattle now, are you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're in Seattle. And were you? Is that your base? But have you always been? Were you Seattle born and bred, Jim?
No. I was born in California. I was born in '49 in the lower Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, in a town called Palo Alto. My dad was a NASA engineer, and I was raised in Palo Alto and Cupertino, the outskirts of San Jose. I left in 1970, January of 1970, so it's like 69, 70, right there, right where the calendar turned. Yeah. And I hitchhiked across country to New York City, and, you know, I was just going to like change my life. Obvious that I had to change my life. I had to change things, and that's what I did. And I wound up meeting some people who were from Seattle, and they were going back, and it sounded great to me because I never heard of it before. You know, it sounded like a little kind of like a cowboy town, frontier town kind of. And so that's what I did. I came out to Seattle, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the mountains and the water and the rain and the mist and the clouds. And when the sun came out, it was so beautiful. And the people were just great. So I've been here pretty much ever since. Come and go, but for the most part, I always come back.
And what was the scene like for musically? What was going on? I mean, you were saying you arrived. What year did you arrive?
I got there in 71. The scene, it's legendary, actually. It was before it had any music press. There was no music press. You couldn't get famous from Seattle. I mean, Jimi Hendrix was from here, but he went to New York and then London. You know, lots of people played here, but you couldn't make it, so to speak, from Seattle. It was a very lively scene that was fueled on its own enthusiasm. Really, that's how it was. And I just loved it for that. Very much like what I found in Ireland. I mean, completely different culture, all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, sure. But that part about being fueled by its own enthusiasm was very similar. And I recognized it when I first got to Ireland. I thought, oh my God, this is because that had kind of gone in Seattle. Seattle was beginning to get money. And, you know, beginning to build high rises and stuff. We're talking like 79, 80. But in that early part of the 70s, like 71, 72, 73, it was just beautiful. Nobody knew where it was. Nobody knew where it was. I went back to California,
Wow, so
and saw old friends or met people or whatever playing somewhere. And they say, "Where are you from, or where are you living now?" I say, "Seattle." And I remember one person looked at me. "That's in Alaska, isn't it?" They said. And another person said, "Oh, I know where that is. That's in Montana." Nobody really knew where Seattle was.
It's like a hidden gem, really.
Yeah.
It was. And what you got in. You've always been. That's what in my mind anyway. You've always sort of been the. I suppose activist is the word I would use, as regards a lot of your songs. Maybe would you say that's a fair? Do you hear that a lot? I mean, you write a lot of songs that have to do with activism. You may not be that kind of songwriter. You've written all kinds of songs, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, you don't mind that term being.
No, I don't mind as long as it's understood that that's not all I do. Yeah. I don't hold myself back. The way I look at it is, if it's worth talking about, it's worth singing about. And if you walk around, just kind of keep your mind open, your ears open, under normal times than today, but what people are talking about and what they're arguing about and what they're shouting at each other about, you got the whole thing. It's all there. It's politics, it's health, it's sports, it's romance, it's all there. So the field's wide open. Yeah. You can and should sing about it. And songs can be very, very powerful. If there's an injustice in the world and you see it and it really kind of eats at you, then you put something together you can sing. And there's all different kinds of songs. Some songs are intentionally just for the now. And when the now is gone, the song is just kind of an art piece or curio thing to put on your mantelpiece or something. They only last for 15 minutes. Other songs last a long time. And they are both valid. So if I see something that is just good for right now, I'm going to do it right now. Whatever. And
absolutely, that's the way it should be.
If I can find something that has more of an arc of time in it, that maybe has like personal lives in it, like something that you would find. Historically speaking, when there were miners' strikes in the UK or in America, whatever, and people were, it was a dangerous time. It was turmoil. You will find songs from those times, and they don't all sing directly about the miners' strike, but they come from it. They reference it.
Yes,
they sing,
passion. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And if you can write songs like that, I think those are very valuable. One that directly is the miners' strike, and others that are just within the emotional swimming of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does indeed. What about say talking about turmoil? I mean, 60s America in the 60s, for example. What do you remember? The good and bad about that kind of era from back then?
Right.
Were you actively involved? You were singer-songwriter at that stage as well. You were sort of at the forefront of any kind of movements or any.
No, I didn't know. Really. I learned what my political awakening began through the songs. It did. It really did. I started playing in 65, and I started playing in coffee houses in 66. It's like I don't even play the guitar for a year. I was like 17 years old or something. I couldn't play in bars or anything. And I was just learning everything that everybody did. But what did everybody do? Well, the civil rights movement was going on. The Vietnam War was getting very scary. People were already losing their lives over. It was a scary thing. People were singing about this stuff. If there was one folk show on the radio, and it was called Hootenanny, and they played Pete Seeger, and they played Dave Van Ronk, and they played Joan Baez and Buffy St. Marie, and they played Bob Dylan and these things. You could hear them. I never heard them before. I didn't know that existed. But there was because a lot of the political songs that like Peter, Paul and Mary did and stuff, they were based on church music, gospel melodies and so on. And some of those melodies they're unexplainably beautiful. They carry you places. And when you put the struggle in it, especially if it's a struggle that you recognize or identify with as a teenager facing draft years or whatever, all of a sudden this is a doorway to a reality that you needed and didn't know it. You needed it, but you didn't know you needed it. So I started learning those songs. And every place that I played, all the coffee houses, all the bars, and everybody that I knew, everybody did something to address those issues. It was part of the repertoire. It was part of the repertoire that we all swam in.
Yeah.
And it even got to the point, and this is kind of true, that if there was somebody that showed up who sang songs and so on and didn't do that, you kind of distanced yourself from them.
Really? You were that strong?
They could be a cop, they could be a this or that. Yeah, because we were all in it together, man. By the time I graduated from high school, I had 3 dead friends. You know what I'm saying? Over there from being, and these were people these were kids that lived in orchards. Their families worked in the fruit trees and stuff, and they lived in orchards, and they didn't have any future. Yeah. And they were taught that they didn't deserve a future, and many of them were taught they didn't deserve a future, and so they would join up or be drafted, and either way, it was a way out, and they'd ride over there and bang.
Kind of a little bit like they're doing with modern soldiers now, feeding them the poor and the the underprivileged being drafted up to be shipped away. Even these days, I suppose you see it a lot with modern wars. I suppose you do. But I wanted to talk to you about. Let's go straight into that great song, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Russian Roulette. While we're on the topic of war, what year did you write the song, and how did it end up in the hands of Moving Hearts?
I wrote it in 1974 because the governor of Washington State had been Richard Nixon's head of the Atomic Energy Commission, and she loved nuclear weapons and nuclear waste, and advertised to the whole world, you could send us your waste. We're not afraid of it. We'll bury it out there in Eastern Washington. We need more weapons. And she was, gung-ho. And I was having a heated discussion with somebody one night in one of the rock and roll clubs that I played in 74. And it just bumped into my head that playing with these things is like playing Russian roulette, but more directly it was like playing Hiroshima roulette. But then you lose the Russian roulette thing about the game. Everybody knows what that is. So it turned into Hiroshima and Nagasaki because there were 2 bombs. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Russian roulette. And I thought, I'm going to write that song. And what everybody knows is the second writing of the song. I have no idea what the first one was. All I know is that I wrote it and I looked at it and I tried to sing it. And I thought, no, it's wrong. And I just kind of threw it out and started all over again until I got something that had the sweep to it and had the punch to it that I wanted, and I was like 24 years old and I could stand out on the street corner, out on a campus or something. I could sing that. You could hear me for blocks. I was loud. I could throw all those words. I could sing that song like it was a fist fight. You know what I'm saying? It was a fist fight.
It was a fist fight. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I could.
Right between the eyes. Yeah.
And when I got to Ballysadair in Ireland in 1979, it had the most daunting lineup of any place I'd ever been. It's like, oh my God, I can't go on stage after these people. I'm a middle-class white kid from California, for God's sake. I can't go on here. I have no reality at all. But I had to. I was booked and I had to. And I thought I had 2 sets, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. I thought, okay, I'll do the Saturday set and just test the waters, see what they respond to. And then the Sunday set is the one where I have to do my thing. So that's what I did. And I didn't realize at the time the Sunday was a dry day. So if you're really nervous, as I was, unfortunately somebody had a little bottle of airplane whiskey that they gave me, and I had a little nip before I went on. But I found that there was a seriously successful, or at least energized and mobilized anti-nuclear movement in Ireland. And it was a big deal. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that song. But what I'm going to do, and I took a big chance here. I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an encore. And then I'm going to do Hiroshima and Nagasaki for the encore. That was my plan. And if I hadn't gotten an encore, nobody ever would have heard that song. So that's what I did. And I don't remember what the set was, but it was, or what the last song or anything like that. I have no idea. But I was really lucky because I got the encore and I did that song, and then I got another encore and I slowed it way down and did a ballad so that I could get off stage. You don't need too much time and that sort of thing. Yeah. And Christy came up to me afterwards and he said, I want that song. I want to sing that song.
So he approached you after the gig and went,
Yeah, in the
Smoke
artist
me.
tent, in the artist tent, which was the backstage area.
Yeah.
And I think I wrote the lyric out to him then and there. I think I borrowed a piece of paper and a pen. I think.
Yeah, just
I can't
scribbled it
remember.
out
It's
for
been
him.
a long. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Amazing. Well, look, I've got great footage of you here. You were in Dublin in January before the world ended. You were
Right.
you were just recently
right.
back.
That's
and,
right.
I have great footage of you here at the Temple Bar Trad Fest, singing that very song. So let's give it a blast, shall we?
Cool.
And then we'll
Okay.
come back and talk some more.
All right.
Folks, the brilliant Jim Page and Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Russian Roulette.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Trad Fest for having me here. After all this time, it is a wonderful pleasure and an honor to be here and to sing for you. Thank you. They dropped the bomb in 45 to end the World War. No one had ever seen such a terrible sight before, and the world watched with eyes wide to see where it would lead as the politics of power passed around the seed. It was a time to remember that we never can forget they were playing Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Russian roulette. Like the saviors of our modern human race, with the radiation halos that hung above their face, with the key to the sure cure and treatment of our ills, a hot shot of cobalt, a pocket full of pills, speaking always of the enemy, lurked across the seas while moving in among us like a carrier disease. Bunkers of the concrete and lead, Einstein's disciples are working steadily ahead, building heavy metal power plants to fire the city lights. And all you hear is the underground humming in the night, and the walls of tight security circle on around where they spill out all the poison and they bury it in the ground. Up in the harbors, hidden secretly away, the warheads and the submarines await to make their play, and the military masterminds improve on their designs. Well, the soldiers get all doped up and stumble through the lines, and the leaks in the water get carried by the tide. They call it national security, I call it attempted homicide. Governors and statesmen on congressional pay, quick to please the hand that feeds, careful what they say, they call it experts to assure us and to wave their magic wands. This is the power of the future, they say, and the future marches on, and they gather up their favors and political gains while the spills fill the rivers and settle in the plain. Behind them, they are riddled full of holes. They are not to be trusted with their hands at the controls. Their eyesight is twisted with the glory of their careers, and the heaped praise of flattery is music to their ears. And to listen to them talk about how it hasn't happened yet, we're playing Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Russia. Thank you.
Yes, sir. A mighty song, mighty song. A lot of us grew up the folky-minded people like myself grew up singing that song in Ireland. It must have. Did you ever actually then go back and hear Moving Hearts doing it live? Or
Oh yeah, I
it
did.
must have been amazing then.
I did a lot
what
of gigs
happened?
with them. I did a lot of gigs with them. I tried to bag it in, the maggot bin, and,
Maggot bin.
in London and different places. Yeah, no, they were
All right, so
amazing.
Amazing outfit.
I stopped doing that song myself for a long time.
Did you really?
I
Because of that.
I mean, come on. It was amazing what they did. They were astounding.
Yeah, absolutely astounding band indeed. But we'll stay in Ireland for the moment. I mean, our middleman, the man that has been very kind to both of us, my old guitar teacher and a school teacher and a friend of yours, Tony Holland.
Tony, yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about Tony. I know he's watching down there in Tullamore tonight. You can say something. You can say good things or bad things about him, depending on the mood you're in. But
no, the bad things, I don't know. I can't. I'd have to make that up. No, Tony's amazing. Hi, Tony. I hope you're out there. Hi, Liz.
He is. Tony and Liz are watching. And Seamus. Hi, Seamus.
Yeah. And Seamus. Yeah. Hi, Seamus. Yeah, you'd be out there too. Yeah, of course. Tullamore.
Yeah, indeed.
Man, I met Tony at the Cambridge Folk Festival, and then he ran the Jolly Mariner Folk Club in Athlone for years, and I don't know how I got out there, but I got out to playing Heine's and for band, and Tony would show up out there, and Tony's just, it's like the eternal river of song is where people can swim, and it doesn't, you could be an auto mechanic and swim, you could be homeless and swim, you could be a professor of Japanese tarot cards and swim in the river of song, and Tony swims in that river. He lives it. To watch him sing a song, yeah. I don't know. It's
amazing.
It's really good. Yeah,
it is indeed. And
and Dominic
and Dominic, of course.
Dominic, I would not sing after Dominic sings. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just let it go by. No, I'll go later.
I know. And I mean, they've been. I mean, Seamus was telling me last night that they run this, the longest running song session in Ireland is happening in the brewery tap in Tullamore there, and that's Dominic and Tony for like 40 years or something. Is that right, Seamus? Ridiculous, but yeah, the musicians that they've both put through the hands, the guitar players that they've taught, the songs and the wealth of music that both those men have given us is amazing. Yeah. Just Seamus is there. Hello, Seamus. I'm just putting a couple of comments up on the screen. Some of the live viewers there. We have Al from Antwerp in Belgium and his daughter Anna. Hi folks, thank you all for joining us. It's lovely to see you. Anybody else who wants to join in on the chat, please feel free to do so. Al just said, can Jim talk about his song Jessie?
Wow.
So maybe he can, I don't know.
Well, of course I can. It's a bit off the
just a random thing that came up there.
Yeah, well, that's a song about Jesse Bernstein, who was a poet and a songwriter and a novelist here in Seattle. And Jesse had he was from Hardscrabble, Los Angeles. That is, he had to fight his way out. And he had to join a gang when he was a kid and all that kind of stuff, and wound up in Seattle. And, Jesse was skinny and covered with jail tattoos that he made himself when he was doing stuff. And he had a mental thing, a physical thing that his body would go numb. He lived with it. It happened. He had these fits and his body would go numb. And when it went numb, he would go crazy and he would like hurt himself so he could feel things, and he was a very sensitive, very generous man, wonderful, smart, great creative writer. And he had this thing that happened to him and it was eating him alive, basically. And I wrote the song because Jesse killed himself. He went out to the coast and he committed hara-kiri, ceremonially. He did that. And I was just shattered. And I was sitting in a bar here in Seattle with a friend of mine, great big likable dyslexic character named Bill Husey, and I was talking to him about this, like, God, how do you explain to people what life is like sometimes, because Jesse would go numb, his knee would go numb, and Bill said, the greatest pain is when you can't feel anything. And I just looked at him and said, you said that. So that's where the song came from. So that's what the song is about, Jesse and what happened. And how the most important, some of the deepest, impactful things about people is the stuff that we don't see. And you have to allow, I try to remind myself, you have to allow people to have those landscapes, because they do. And they can determine how a person responds, how a person activates, how a person's mood, and you have to allow them to have landscapes that you know nothing about. And that's basically what the song is.
Very nice. Well, I think that answers your question, Al, in a good way. That's a wonderful story too. But of course you have so many great songs and so many great stories. Very hard to pick a few for this little hour here.
Well, let's make it longer.
Make it longer. No,
the banana bread's almost ready. We can all sit around and have banana bread. You bring the beer, I'll bring the banana bread.
All right, that's a good deal.
It'll be
You fly me
fine.
over with banana bread and beer would be a good name for a song, wouldn't it?
Ooh.
There you go. It sounds good to me. Let's move on to a song called Gasworks Park. And tell me a little bit about that, please, if you don't mind.
Well, it's a love song. It's filmed in Gasworks Park. My wife, Katie, filmed it about 10 years ago, something like that. And that's one of my guitars I'm playing there. And it was not scripted at all. She just kind of, told me how she wanted me to do so she could do the camera away a certain way. And I sang it, and it's in Gasworks Park. And yeah, it's a love song about a place. Gasworks Park was an old coal gasification plant. And after they first designed it, they discovered that it was toxic under the first layer. So they had to shut it down, and they had to recover it with fresh earth. And for years there were these signs around the water saying, don't swim in the water. And that's in there too. But the essence is, it's beautiful. So there you go.
Absolutely is. Gasworks Park. Dear people, from the brilliant Jim Page.
Early in the evening, we go walking in the park in the evening, do a little talking in the dark of the evening, just she and me. See the way the moon flies, like a kite up in the night skies, shine upon the Gasworks Park by the Union Sea. There's a sign in the water, says don't go in the water. There's something in the water that they don't want you to get on your skin. Oh, but the lights of the city make it look so pretty. And one of these days we're gonna leave the city behind. And there is little to be what it appears to be. It's an illusory situation. You can do anything, be anyone, get your mind undone. It's a simple equation, and it's a tiny spark in the Gasworks Park. Oh, in the town that I was born in, well, they got up every morning and went to work and came home in the evening. It was always the same. I could have followed in the footsteps. Don't know why I didn't, but something in my thinking wouldn't allow me to jump on that train. And there is little to be what it appears to be. It's an illusory situation. You can do anything, be anyone, get your mind undone. It's a simple equation, and it's a tiny spark in the Gasworks Park. So early in the evening, we go walking in the park in the evening, do a little talking in the dark of the evening, just she and me.
Another beautiful song of yours. One of your probably most well-known songs, I'd say. Would it be?
To some people, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what people know.
Yeah, you're not sure.
I just love the sound of the guitar, man. That guitar sounds great.
It does. An old Gibson Epiphone.
No, it's an Epiphone. Yeah,
It's
Epiphone.
an Epiphone.
1965 Epiphone Texan.
Wow, was it open tuning as well? I think was it?
Uh,
Not sure. Look at
outside strings are down to D, so it's
double
yeah.
D. Okay.
Yeah, double D. Okay.
D, we call it.
Yeah.
But the guitar I really want to talk about, of course, is that beautiful Martin guitar that you play a lot. Tell us a bit. Where did you get that, or where did it come out of? What's the story? What's the year? Give me the whole.
How old do you think it
lowdown
is?
about that.
Hey, tell me, how old do you think it is?
Well, it's pretty bruised and battered looking. It's it's up there. It's almost up there with Trigger now at the stage.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But I would say maybe 60s.
Yeah, good. I bought it new in 1994. I have the original owner's card to prove it.
Did not.
I did. And
1994.
Exactly.
Have
And
you seen the state of it, Jim?
yes, no, I know. It was okay. It began its road to Scardom, yeah, whatever you want to say. Road to Scardom. When I hiked up the hill to Julia Butterfly's tree in Northern California, it was this young woman who called herself Julia Butterfly, and she was living in a tree. And she lived there for 2 years. For 2 years. At the end of the first year, they had an event just to kind of, celebrate the thing. And I just written a song called Butterfly Wings, and I wanted to sing it for her. It's about her.
Yeah.
But without using her name. Her name wasn't in there because I didn't want to. That was the first time I did that, and I've been kind of doing that for the most part since. So as to not turn people into celebrities. If they want to do that, they have to do it on their own time. So Butterfly, I wanted to sing about what she was doing. Okay. So I hiked up me and a bunch of other people, and it took like 45 minutes to hike up this logging road. And about halfway there, it started to rain. And it was fairly torrential. And I had a soft case over my shoulder, and it was just getting heavier and heavier because it's getting soaked with rain. And when you do that to a guitar, the finish all turns milky. And it doesn't necessarily slough off, but it just changes. And I was not going to not sing. It took me 45 minutes to get there. I was soaking wet. I was not going to not sing.
Yeah.
So I took it out of the sopping wet case, and I stood in the rain, and I sang it to this diaphanous character who was up in this tree, kind of going from limb to limb, and then walked back down again. I got a terrible cold that lasted for a week or something, and the guitar began to change. And that was when it began to change. I mean, guitars are tools to me. They're like beautiful instruments. They're concert pianos. Fine, I understand it. But it's a tool that we use to stand in front of people, to get the song sung, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not, it's had accidents from airplanes. It's had accidents when the strap slipped in a radio station and it hit something. Yeah. But I'm careful with it, Yeah, it happens.
It happens.
But it's only like, what is that, 30 years old? 94,
Really?
something like that.
My God, it could.
20 years
yeah,
old?
it could pass from
20
something
years
from the
old?
50s, 60s. Amazing.
5, yeah. Yeah, I know.
Oh wow!
Sounds great.
And as I said, the sound of it is just stunning. Yeah, and so that's your main baby. Is it a D28?
35.
I'm 35.
Yeah.
I like my own. Gorgeous, beautiful.
Oh,
things.
oh, they're amazing.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah. I
Swim
mean,
in that sound.
I always wanted a Martin too. I mean, it was because of Tony Holland that I that I have one. I mean, he stood up in the classroom with his own Martin
I know.
guitar when I was 9 years old, and that was like, oh, what's that? You know.
I know. You look at it and you hear it and you can't believe it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's a few of us now from the old Monday night sessions in Tullamore. We all have Martins, and I think Tony Holland has a lot to do with that, and
Right.
Dominic, of course, too.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just checking my notes here. I did make notes for you because you're worth it.
Because what?
Because you're worth it.
Oh. That's a good
So
one.
worth it, Jim. I made notes. So yes. I wanted to ask you just about your writing process. I know there's some songwriters watch these little live streams and wondering how you go about it. Do you take a lot of notes? You're obviously a lyric driven writer.
A bit of, wow, that's a bit of everything. What I like to say is, I don't have any ironclad anything. Okay. I just don't. I think that's self-defeating. And I'm also kind of dyslexic and scatterbrained, so I wouldn't be able to do it anyway. But what I pay a lot of attention to a lot of things, and I investigate a lot of things continuously, deconstruct a lot of reality. My main question is, how did we get here? Is my main question. How did we get like this? Okay, that's been my main question probably all my life. And I do a lot of thinking about that off stage. I don't think about it on stage, and I don't think about it when I'm writing a song. It's like, but I just start going. Sometimes I'll just pick up the guitar and start doing chords and just kind of rap over the top of it. And if something works, it works. I don't edit myself until I got something that has some parts to it that are kind of cool, and then I start moving lines around and putting it together. It's a fluidity thing. It's like swimming. It's very much like swimming and trying to, catch the current, or surfing or something. I learned a long time ago not to try to tell a song what to do, because it'll beat you every time. So you work with it. You work with it. If you can tell right away if a song is like too mechanistic, if the songwriter was thinking too much when they did it,
Yeah.
because they're really good songs. Like my favorite example is always the Midnight Special, which is a Texas penitentiary song. But you really wouldn't know it when you listen to it. And once you do, it's like it all makes sense. It's got, depending on what version you hear, either 3 or 4 verses. It's got an inescapably perfect chorus.
Yeah.
Let the Midnight Special shine its ever-loving light on me. And it's got the woman going to see the governor to get her husband out. You've got the people going down to get fed, and the food's always the same. And then you got the warning verse that says, if you ever go to Texas, ever go to Houston, watch out, because there's a cop over there that'll do to you what he did to me. Okay. All of those verses are perfectly natural, perfectly real. They're perfectly intimate, small pictures of people's lives. None of them point fingers at Texas penitentiaries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's clever.
And that's what makes it perfect to me, is because it's accessible to an insider and an outsider. It talks to someone who knows and someone who doesn't. And they can both love that song, and they can both live in it. And someone who doesn't know anything, maybe through listening to it, asking a few questions, they might start to find out. But the point is to make it authentic and good for someone who doesn't know and someone who does. Both of those. And other than that, I don't really have a method. I just kind of clutter around until something works.
Until something works.
Yeah.
Have you any idea about the song count?
No.
How many songs you've written?
No, I don't, because I write a lot anyway, but when I was first starting out, I wrote like even way more. I would write. And they were just, a lot of that stuff was just really stupid. They're gone. And I don't know whether they should even be counted. Let's be serious here. I don't know how many.
No idea.
No.
Did you ever, I'm sure you've got a list registered with ASCAP or with someone in the States, have you? Or do you use IMRO in Ireland? Or, where do you register your songs? I mean,
I'm in
surely you
IMRO, and
have
I'm in.
kind of, yeah.
I'm primarily BMI, and then IMRO in Ireland and stuff. And yeah, and when I write a song, I register with BMI, and I don't know what the count is. They're not all in there because I mean, I don't know.
You'd say hundreds anyway. You'd say
hundreds. Yeah,
you'd say hundreds, I guess.
Yeah.
That's stunning. I mean, that's frightening.
Well, some of them are worth. Some of them are worth putting on the table. Some aren't. Let's be realistic.
Like, of course. Not every song anyone writes is going to be a great song. Indeed, you have to. You got to take the rough with the smooth, but it's a huge body of work. Pretty amazing. I'm going to read a little thing here for you. On the 16th of March, 2003, American peace activist from Olympia, Washington, was crushed to death by an Israeli bulldozer. Talk about that, sir. And that song that you wrote called I'd Rather Be Dancing, an amazing song for the wonderful Rachel Corrie.
Well, I was in Northern California when that happened, and I read the newspaper article. I think it was in the newspaper, and I just kind of just stared into space because, she was so young, and and when you think about it, she was killed by an American-built tractor built to Israeli military specifications, trying to defend in a place of occupation which is paid for with American taxpayer money. So she was basically killed by America in another country.
That's right. In another country.
I mean, that's true.
A caterpillar machine, yes.
Yeah, and one of my favorite artists at the time was a guy named Ice Cube. He's a rapper guy. And Ice Cube was working on it at that time. He was working on a play called America Eats Its Young, which I really like that idea. Yeah, it's great. America Eats Its Young. And I thought that's what they did. They ate her. They went and got her. This is exactly what happened in another country because she was going you can talk about it for months. So I just wrote some lines and that's all I did. And I got home and Christy Moore called me on the phone. Okay. A transatlantic phone call. And he asked me if I had written anything because he wanted to do something. I said, no, I've just written some lines. How about you? He says the same. So we read each other lines over the phone. And one of the lines that he read me was, I would rather be dancing to Pat Benatar. And that's exactly what I was looking for, because that goes back to the Midnight Special. That goes back to if you were there, you understand. If you don't, it just sounds natural and kind of cool, right? So I asked him where he got that from. Did you make that up or did you get that somewhere? And he said he got it from one of Rachel's emails that she sent home to her parents. So I started digging around and I found a cache of emails online somewhere. I don't remember where. And so I built the song around that idea. I'd rather be dancing because that speaks volumes to me about, what
a great line.
Right. I'd rather be dancing. She said that. So, and again, like Butterfly Wings, I didn't use her name. I thought, okay, I'm not going to put her name in there. I don't want the Ballad of Rachel Corrie. I don't want her to become something she wasn't.
Yeah.
That happens if you're not careful. So I wanted to sing a song about the idea. And that's what I did. And so anyway, so there's
beautiful song. Where was this particular concert? Or was it a memorial?
It was an event to give a nod to the date that she was killed. And it was in Seattle. Her mother and father were there, and there's a picture of her in the background you can see.
Beautiful.
And I was asked to do the song. So yeah.
I'd Rather Be Dancing, folks. The Rachel Corrie song. It's beautiful. Check it out.
I was always the one. I could never stand idly by. I watched while the bullies beat up and the weak ones. I had to do something to try. And I never gave up on people. That we could be better somehow. Morality's compass, you gave it to me, and I still follow it now.
stop thinking about it. I couldn't get it out of my mind. The pictures, the stories, the plight, the people in occupied Palestine. And how my government makes me complicit with the political aid that they send. So I packed in my bags and I headed to Rafah to work with the ISM. And I'd rather be dancing and falling in love. But if I can just watch from a distance, and what am I made of? Mama, these people are so good to me. They feed me like a one of their own. They feed me and see to my needs. They let me sleep in their homes. And Papa, their lives are so hard. The gunshots every night, the roadblocks, strip searches, humiliations. Papa, it just isn't right. Well, I can feel my privilege. It's there in my American face. I could wave my passport around like a flag and I would be safe in this place. For these child soldiers of Israel, they look like the boys back home. And if it wasn't for American money, they'd have to leave these people alone. And I'd rather be dancing to Pat Benatar. Oh, but somebody has to do something about it, and here we are. Tractors are coming today. They're like tanks with bulldozer blades. The name on the side says Caterpillar, and that means they're American made. Well, I am American too, and I'll be where everybody can see. So if they want to run over those houses today, they're gonna have to run over me. Well, it's dangerous taking a stand, but it's dangerous running away. And sometimes you have to face up to the danger. There is just no other way. For there are such beautiful dreams I have seen in the eyes of a child. And if I can just make one little difference, then I think my life is worthwhile. And I'd rather be dancing. Instead I'm saying goodbye. We'll meet again when it's over. Don't cry. And I'd rather be dancing. And surely we'd all rather be. And someday we'll dance in a world that's peaceful and free.
Yes, absolutely stunning song, Jim, and poor old Rachel Curry. What a tragic story. I suppose you could talk for a long time about occupation over that part of the world. I suppose you have a lot to say about it. You don't have to say anything about it now if you don't want to, but if you do want to mention something or say anything about it while we're on the topic, feel free.
Well, the history of the world in some ways is the history of occupation, and then the history of the world is also the history of liberation from occupation. That's the deal. I live in America. It's like, we're supposed to be the seat of democracy, the seat of freedom, American freedom. We fight for freedom. We're always talking about effing freedom. Mm-hmm. How did it get there? How did this country get there? It's weird because people, it's like it's known. Everybody knows. It's the elephant in the living room. Absolutely everybody knows how this country got here. Who was living here before it became, and they do these tricks. You know, they call these, there were like 400 at least indigenous nations here. And they have their own names, they have their own languages, they have their own everything. They were indigenous.
400.
Yeah, at least. Okay. And nowadays, you know, we have to make progress. So sometimes little stuff isn't really but it's important to know and to think about. When you call somebody Native American, that means they are part of it.
Yes.
America didn't become a country. It didn't become United States of America until 1776. And when you're talking about a people who have been here for like 30 or 40,000 years, they're hardly Native Americans.
No.
But if you talk about what they actually are, then it opens a can of worms, and all the conversation has to change. And you're no longer talking about your greatness. They're talking about your culpability. And you're talking about the debt you owe to the justice of humanity on the planet. You see, everything changes.
Right.
So, I mean, I know Indian people. I know indigenous people in this who refer to Palestinians as Palestinians. You see, they put the two words together because it's a similar sort of thing. If you operate on the idea that God wants you to have that land, regardless of who might be there, you know, I mean, with God, you can do, with God on your side, like the song says, you can do almost anything.
Absolutely.
That's what we did. Yeah. You know, we called it manifest destiny. That's what happens over there. In some people's eyes, they have different words for it. But it's the same trip. Manifest destiny meant that it was ours for the taking. And they worked out all kinds of rules and regulations, man. They had it worked out where until a person has actually transformed the landscape, they can't claim it as theirs. That was part of the law. And that allowed people to go in there and take stuff because Indians were living among the land rather than on top of it, right? I mean, some of them were cultivating it, of course, but I mean, there's all kinds, and it's not your business to tell somebody else how to behave in their own land. You know, where all their mothers and fathers and grandparents and grandchildren are. That's not your right, unless you redefine the word right. Yeah. We don't define those words. We don't define democracy. We don't define freedom. Freedom is one of the stupidest, most overused, meaningless words on the planet. Freedom to do what? Freedom to do what? At whose expense and for whose benefit? If we talk about that, then we can use the word. If we don't, then it's moot. It's stupid. You know, and progress is the same way. Progress for who? Back home, here where I live, we throw these words around all the time. You know, make America great again.
Patriotism is another good one. Yeah.
Great for who? Great for who? That wasn't part of the discussion. So here we are, you know, and we got the whatever. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's a big thing, but it's part of the struggle we're involved in, and it's part of the struggle that song is involved in. Any decent love song talks about that, because you can colonize a romance. You know, two people get together and one person is the colonizer, the other is the colonized. I mean, you can actually look at it that way. You know, they call it spousal abuse. Same thing, isn't it? National abuse. One nation abuses another. Yeah. It's the struggle is for mutual respect, mutual aid, mutual justice, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what the struggle is for in all of its different forms. And I don't think it ends in your lifetime. I don't think you can say, there, we've got it. Now we can all kick back and live in a perfect world. I don't think you get to do that. You might be able to if no one else was thinking in the other direction, but they are. They've got think tanks and military tanks and soldiers and you know, agendas and economic systems, and they're as busy as you are. Yeah, you know, they really are. So, you know.
Yeah, it's well put. Absolutely. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but I won't. I know you're mad to get some banana cake into you.
I can wait. I'm trying to figure out how to get some to you. Maybe if I just shove it through the screen.
I'd love to.
Where's my hand? Shove it
over.
Right in there. Yeah. Then you can put some of that Belgian beer over to me, and then it'll be fine.
Send it over, yeah. What's the when are you heading over? Any plans? I mean, once this bloody virus leaves us, had you plans or have you stuff going on back in Ireland or over in Europe in the foreseeable months or a year or so?
I'll be honest, and I'll say it right here in the front so that everybody can hear it. I need an agent to get me into those country. I have a good agent in Ireland, but she's really busy with doing stuff, and I was just over there, and now there's a virus. So everything is on hold. But I mean, I would love to get to Austria. I would love to get to Belgium. I would love to get into England, all these different places, you know, and I could get on the computer and start, you know, emailing people and stuff, and it would just be disastrous. I would book myself in closets and then cross wires. So I don't want to do that.
But you do a thing. I'm going to put up your Facebook page here, cjim.page, folks. Jim, you do a lovely little live stream, and you're going to do it once a week now. Is that what you're saying? From your
I'm thinking of doing 2 a week.
Iniquity.
It keeps the Bobcat Den. This is where I am now. This is the Bobcat Den.
Oh, you're in the Bobcat Den. All right.
Yeah.
So just tell us about that and what your plans are for the live stream.
Well, it started out because I've lost all my gigs. You know, as you can imagine, most people have lost their actual in public gigs.
Indeed.
And so there I am. And one of the people that I was doing a gig with, it was going to be a triple bill. She lives in Iowa, and she said, let's live stream. And I've never done one before. I've been, kind of like a guest. I was a guest on one once, but I've never really done one. And so she was, she was going to just use her phone. I was going to use my phone. So she went on from Iowa at 6 o'clock, and I went on 7. And I didn't think I was going to like it. But I was living in like a constant tension, like a low-grade panic. It's like, oh my God, the world, I can't, I hallucinated like armies of viruses wandering through the neighborhoods with their rifles, shooting at, killing people that don't wash their hands enough, that sort of thing. And it's just all this kind of stuff. And when I started doing the live stream, I just started to enjoy myself like it was a release, and I could do all these songs. And, Katie was here and she was wandering around. She was singing with me, and she put a beanie cap on my head in the middle of stuff. And it was just fun. Yeah. And I got a lot of comments, and I was like, oh my God, I felt really good. It made me feel really good. It was like a therapy thing. Like kept me sane. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this once a week. So Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Seattle time. By the way, for those of you that are wondering, I found a really great little website called here it is. Yeah. Time Converter. Well, it's like Time Buddy. I think it's Time Buddy.
Time Buddy, I think.
Yeah, which is really cool because you can see where it is anywhere else in the world. Move the slider along, right?
Along. Yeah,
so 7 o'clock here is X over there. And then my friend Fergie out there in Athlone started saying, man, this is really late. It's 2 o'clock in the morning over here. So I thought, okay. So last Monday, yesterday, noon in Seattle time, meaning 7 o'clock in Athlone, 7 o'clock in Dublin, 7 o'clock in London. I do it then. So all these people get to watch over there. And it's great for me. It gives me a reason to polish up old songs, to bring them out, to just keep playing. Got to keep playing, And there's no pressure on anybody. That's a cool part about live streams is there's no pressure. You can be as goofy and as together as you want, because it's like it's real life. It's real life. It's not
exactly.
Yeah, and that's the great part. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm going to keep up the 2 a week thing. One at noon on Monday, or maybe even earlier, but noon felt really good to me, and then one at 7 o'clock, and that takes care of. That takes care of. It's just a lot of fun to do, and they're usually an hour long, and I'll repeat some songs and other songs I throw in that I haven't done before, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
No, you had a good one last night. I watched most of your stream last night. It was very cool.
Okay.
From the den there, it was gorgeous. Yeah, you got lots of live viewers. It's a really good thing, as you said. It's just fun to do. It's fun. Like this, like me doing this. I get to reach out and connect with either old friends or people I've never met before, such as yourself, and. It's lovely. It's a lovely thing. It's a great, the internet is brilliant for bringing people together like that. Yeah.
No, it's a great service. And you're doing a great service. You're saving people's lives in a lot of ways,
Well, I enjoy this. It's a small part of the channel. And as I said, I'm going to introduce this next song by saying, guys, you might think you're cool, but you'll never be standing on stage with Dick Gahan singing Goodnight Irene cool. And
that was a
song.
Trip.
Look, I came across this. I was like, this is a cool one to finish off the interview with, I think.
Yeah, this is a camera film, smartphone film by Reg Dyer, a friend of both of ours, a Welshman. I used to play his folk club years ago, and I'm sure Dick has played his club a lot. And Reg was there, and he filmed it, and it's just, it's beautiful.
Just a beautiful moment. It really is. Was it in Wales or was it in UK somewhere?
This was in Wales. Yeah,
this was in Wales.
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's just across the border. It's like a stone's throw in the country. Either
Yes.
that or it was right next to it, and Reg came out. I can't remember exactly where it was. I should.
Yeah. Well, you can look it up. I'll give it a spin. I'll give it a spin
okay.
for the people, folks. Dick Gahan and Jim Page singing "Goodnight, Irene." How lovely is this?
Page.
Well, good night, Irene. Indeed, you won't find two bigger legends side by side on a stage anywhere. Wow, wow, wow! That I was so happy to find that little bit of footage
Yeah.
of you two boys. That would have been so great to have been at that concert. You remember it pretty well, I suppose. Well, it wasn't that long ago, was it?
4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
No, it was amazing. I mean, Dick he's a towering figure, you know, and he's a very, very generous man, very generous, very selfless person. And for me, it was like driving around, and I sometimes I could understand like every third word, or every fourth word is maybe. I mean, he has very, very rich accent, and to my untrained ears, but man, I mean, he's smart. Very smart guy. He's been doing this a long time, and he knows what he's talking about, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine. I'd love to meet him sometime. And you, I'd love to meet you sometime as well, in real life.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And when we do, you got to bring some banana cake with you as well, that's for sure.
Okay, we'll do that.
It was an absolute pleasure. The hour flew by, and look, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you, Jim. I really appreciate your songs and your stories. I'm a big fan of your work, always have been. I hope you keep doing what you're doing, and that we meet along the road somewhere.
Yes, let's make that happen.
All right.
It's really good. I'm looking forward to it too. Really, really enjoyable. Really good. It's a good service you do.
Look, I enjoy doing it. It's a small part of the channel, and I will see you down the road. Enjoy the rest of your day over there in Seattle.
I will. You too, Daddy. Okay.
Slide, Jim. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, now, wasn't that a treat and a half, folks? All the way from Seattle, the brilliant Jim Page, and wonderful songwriter. If you want to hear more about Jim, jimpage.net. We'll give you all his details there. He has a great little live stream going on there. I think it's twice a week now. Thursday, I think is the next one he said. cjim.page. It's also a great name for a Facebook page. So check it out. He's a great live stream going on. Thank you all very much if you've joined us live. Thank you for sticking around. It's been a pleasure broadcasting to you here. Again, consider subscribing to the channel down there below, folks. Helps me get the songs and the work out there. And I'll see you next time.